Have you been looking for an easy workflow to follow when doing your digital painting? Well, if you stick around, I'm going to show you the one I use. Hi, I'm Seb, a self-taught artist, and in today's video I want to show you my work process for creating digital art on Photoshop or any other program that you might want to use. What we're going to be doing is creating a sketch, a painting of a sketch I did recently. It's this, I'm going to be using this as a reference, which I highly recommend you use. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with a very rough sketch of just putting everything in. So what I'm going to do, looking at my reference, I'm going to start blocking in my arm. What we're doing is we're designing like this mechanical arm here today. Sure, I get the shapes in very roughly, making sure the proportions are pretty good. Best thing about digital is we can always adjust afterwards. So in case we make the mistake like I just did, where we will start running out of space, we can just quickly adjust that. Getting these little finer details, but we're just kind of blocking them in at the moment, just so we know where we're at. Again, constantly checking the reference. All right, and now I'm going to play around with the size, just adjust it, make sure that it looks good on paper, on the page. Cool, might have to squish it a little bit. So what we're doing with this process is going through the different stages, but what we're going to do is start with Grayscale. This, in my opinion, is the easiest way to work on digital, just because you kind of break down the different stages of how you get to the end piece rather than just instantly having to worry about everything. And this also allows us to make a lot of changes as we go along. It makes it a lot easier and faster. This is probably a much better workflow for doing anything like concept art. I think it very much would shine in that situation. And we've got our mechanical arm. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in and just sort of block a little bit of the darker colors. Make sure I'm getting the values in. These are the bits that I want a darker color. So what we're going to do is do exactly that on here. Just get these couple blocks. A little bit darker here. Just my posture. Most important thing when you're drawing, make sure you have a good posture. We never do. And we've got the rough sort of sketch over it, right? What I'm going to do now is block in a little bit of the background. I'm going to go with an airbrush. Actually, to be honest, I think what I'm going to do instead, do it on a separate layer and use the multiply. Now, I'm going to grab these two, flatten it, and we're going to lower the opacity. Oh, quick tip, forgot to do this at the beginning. Start with a grayed out canvas, preferably a mid-tone. This is just going to help you out a lot with the drawing. Painting on pure white is always very daunting, and it just helps you sort of get your values better. I forget to do it often, but here you go. Just trying to remind you that it exists and you can do that. So what I'm going to do now is make another new layer. Just going to pop that, and now we're going to go into details. Even though this is the detailed stage, I am still being fairly loose with this because I'm trying to create a more painterly feel. So I'm not too fussed about how this particular sketch here is going to look. This is based on the anatomy of a real arm. In my opinion, is a very important thing to pay attention to when you are drawing, because often we understand things from reality. If someone sees a drawing of something that just they can't comprehend, they're going to have a hard time understanding what you've created. This part, I did not want to add too much detail because I wanted people to focus more on the whole arm, because that's where I want the detail to be. Your job as an artist is to guide your viewers through your art and make sure you point them to the right direction and you point them where you want them looking at. And that can be done with multiple methods and art theory based things such as color, repetition, things like that. You're creating focus on your page. There we go. Now we've got this little sketch over it, but we're going to keep everything together because I like sketches being in the drawing in itself. I feel like after you get rid of the basic sketch that was in it at the beginning, the painting starts to lose a lot of life. I feel like there's a loss of energy then. So therefore I'm going to try and keep this in. And what I'm going to do now is go in and start filling in bits again. Try and make sure we're getting some values in on the page. These are darker parts, so we're going to draw them in a little bit. So I'm going to start actually painting a little bit of this picture. already spending a bit too much time here, because what we're going to do now is we're going to go over it just a little bit with some overlay, airbrush, bringing in some light, making sure this bit pops a little bit more. What I've done here is the light is actually coming from this side and this is shadow, right? Very simple setup. It's not anything massive. I am just using this to again block in, because what I'm going to do straight after this is flatten the layer again. As you can see, the hand is not getting the love that it deserves. Also, now I'm going to do the same but with the multiply, and we're going to go over here and just sort of block it in a little bit. And we've got a flattened image. Delete these. Now I'm going to paint over this again, and we're going to go in again. Right about now is when you can even start putting in a little bit more detail onto these pieces. All right. And just to say, this is more than one workflow, right? There's many that you can be doing. This is just one of the ones I'm showing you, and I'll be showing you more in videos to come because I know a couple, so I want to share them all with you. So you get this part. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video here and I'm going to paint the details in. So this is what I'm doing right now, nothing else. I'm going to be going over this whole thing, almost treating it like a traditional painting and just going over the details. And I'll check back in with you when I've got that bit done so we can move on to the next stage. Right, so I've come in and I've refined this a little bit, right? We're at the stage where we're kind of painting it all in, but I do not want to be going full detail yet. Actually, no, what I'm going to do first, we're going to go in again with the multiplies and the overlays. And I could actually just use the multiply here to completely just push this whole painting back. And then I can come in and really just pick out what I want to show, right? So we put it all the way in the back, very dark, but I think it went a little bit too dark, something like that. And now I'm going to bring out what I want even more again with the overlay. I want things to pop and I want things to be hidden away. Like the whole side of this the left part really does not need to have that much information or detail, because it's in the shadow and there is a lack of information there. Therefore, I can now come in and really bring out what I want people to see. As you can see, we have pushed back the painting a little bit like that, but I think it's worth it. And what I'm going to do is flatten that again. And now I'm going to start blotting in a bit of color, and I'm going to use the overlay for that. And if I don't like that, I can always go in here, adjust the hue a little bit. I want the highlights to be orange. So these sort of things. What's great is that we've kind of already got the values in here because we've got the values in here because that's what we've been working with. And that just helps you sort of piece this together way better, in my opinion, because now you have a visualization that you would not have if you were just going straight into the colors. You would sort of need to imagine everything before you even get here, which I think is great if you can do that, but a lot of us can't. It's a very hard skill to learn as an artist, have all of that knowledge being used at once. It's almost like playing a piano. You can use your right hand, but now try using your right hand and your left hand at the same time. It's a lot more difficult. We never know what's going to look great until we properly see it. So I've got my colors in. I'm not going to focus on the hand too much. I've already put a little bit too much work into the previous part because I mainly want to use this video to show you this process. But I'm also going to go in and make a background. And instead of using overlay, you can also use the color option. They kind of work the same way. Overlay is just going to give you a little bit more light if you choose the brighter colors. Now what I'm going to do again, flatten the entire piece. And now we can just paint over this. This is where you really start to refine the piece, but I'm also going to show you a couple little tricks that you can use. So we're going to go in again with the overlay and we're going to pick out an airbrush. And what I want to do is I want to get a couple of these pieces to just kind of pop a little bit of light. This is mostly a matte material, so you do not want to overdo it with this, but with these here is where we can shine, right? Because these are kind of like copper tubes. That's what I'm imagining them to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a lot of vibrancy into the color here. And what I'm going to do is going to make them shiny. This is all based on the material that you are trying to recreate in your paintings. And I'm going to have a little bit of paint, a little bit of that color bleeding through to the rest especially if it's a little bit more of a reflective material. And now I'm going to go in with white because I really want this to be shiny. If you've been able to notice in this process, what we're doing is we are constructing, then we're deconstructing, and constructing, and then we're deconstructing. That way we can bring out the details and keep that under sketch and that under painting in there, which I feel provides a much more detailed look and a much nicer, more professional look on your paintings. Don't want to overdo it again because it's very easy to overdo something like this. And now use this as your base and just keep adding and adding and adding and making sure that you build up this painting to look as beautiful as you want it to look. So this is where you start refining. And yeah, just use this now to sculpt and model the rest of your painting. So this is actually where I am going to leave this painting out for this video. But the main thing that I wanted you guys to learn from this process is breaking down the different parts to make it a lot easier on yourself when you are painting. Going in straight away with color is definitely something that makes the whole process a lot quicker, but in my opinion this breaks it down into these bite-sized chunks. It's just not as daunting when you're painting, but breaking it down like this gives us a lot more control. And because it is a digital painting, you can absolutely do whatever you want with it afterwards. It's not a problem. Even if you flatten your layers like I was doing in here, you could still go in and you can change everything around. So now go ahead, go try this thing, get painting. I hope this process was useful for you. I hope it sort of helped you see a different way of going about digital painting. And also let me know if you enjoyed this type of video. This is the first time I'm doing a different style of this, more long form kind of tutorial. But yeah, make sure you leave a like or leave a sub if you want to see anything else like this. I'm going to be posting more of these methods soon because I have a couple more to show. But yeah, hope you've enjoyed the video and I'll see you in the next one.